everybody, welcome to Vintage Variety. Today I'm going to share some of the books in my collection. These are books that I use to help me learn about vintage and antique items. Most of them are books on jewelry. I do have some books on other things in my collection, and I'm going to show you these books to give you some ideas if you're a collector on some pretty good books to get. Boo is going to be my assistant for this video. The first books I'm going to show you guys are books that I have shown in a previous video. This one is Art Nouveau and Art Deco Jewelry. It is by Lillian Baker. It's an identification and value guide. This book doesn't have a ton of pictures. It does have pictures in the book. It just doesn't have a lot of pictures. It's an okay book if you're a jewelry collector and just want to increase your knowledge. Another book that I own is Warman's Jewelry, Fine and Costume, 4th edition. And this book is by Kathy Flood. One thing that I've noticed with this book is a lot of the pieces in this book are higher end. They are pieces that are highly collectible, and if you're like me and you look to add pieces to your collection just through thrifting and yard sales and stuff like that, you're not going to find a lot of this. You could, but it's doubtful to me that you're going to run across a lot of these pieces. Looking to increase your knowledge about collecting vintage and antique jewelry, fine or costume, I think this is an okay book to own. This is Popular Jewelry, 1840 to 1940 by Roseanne Edinger. I recommend this book. I think this is a good book to own. It gives you a lot of information. It gives you a lot of photographs. If you're like me, I like to be able to see what the writer is writing about. It gives me a better idea of what I should be looking for. So I do recommend this book. This has to be one of my favorites. This is Costume Jewelry, Identification and Values. This book is by Sherry Simmons, and I highly, highly recommend it if you're a collector or if you are interested in learning more about identifying vintage and antique costume jewelry. This is a really great book. This book is Answers to Questions About Old Jewelry, 1840 to 1950. This is the 8th edition. It is an identification and value guide, and it is by Janine Bell. This is a pretty good book to own. Fine antique jewelry, and it also has costume jewelry. Some of these pieces, as I look through this book, are pieces that I could never afford to own. But it does give you a lot of good ideas, and I feel like, you know, there are pieces in this book that you could run across somewhere. It has a lot of different information in it, so I would recommend getting this book. And this is Estate Jewelry, 1760 to 1960. This is a good book to own. There are lots of illustrations and photographs in this book. Copies of old advertisements. They give you a lot of information about identifying different things, fittings, and findings. So yes, I do recommend this book if you're ever out thrifting, because I do look in thrift stores for books on collecting. Kind of keep an eye out for some of these. You might look up and just run across them. I also have this book. This is an identification and price guide to antique jewelry. It's by Guy Kaplan, and it has some very beautiful pieces of jewelry in it. It gives you quite a bit of information about pieces. This book is relatively new to my collection. I have not finished reading it or looking through it. I will, however, tell you that I am very impressed with it. It's by Anna Miller. It's Cameos, Old and New, the 4th edition. And she goes into a lot of detail about the history behind the cameos, all the different materials, and she gives you some really good information about how to identify the age of a cameo. And I do collect cameos. I have a decent sized collection. I will be doing a video on those later on. Here is another book. This one is on plastic jewelry, and it covers a lot of information. Types of plastic jewelry. It's going to have some Bakelite in it, some celluloid in it. It's going to have lots of pictures and illustrations. So if you love plastic jewelry, it's a really good book to own. This book, I believe I ran across this and bought this at a thrift store. This book is Hat Pins and Hat Pin Holders by Lillian Baker. So if that's something that you're interested in collecting, this would be a good book for you. This is Jewelry and Gems, the Buying Guide, How to Buy Diamonds, Pearls, Colored Gemstones, Gold, and Jewelry with Confidence and Knowledge. This is by Antoinette Maitland. This is a decent book to own. There's not going to be any costume jewelry in this book. This is all fine jewelry, but it's still a decent book to own. The Art of Juliana Jewelry by Caterina Musetti. Whether you collect Juliana jewelry or not, this is just a beautiful book to look at. And it has some amazing pieces in it. This book, if you regularly watch my videos and you have seen the video on Monet Jewelry, where I show my collection, then you have seen this book. This book is a beautiful book to own. I love Monet Jewelry. I think that they have really great pieces of jewelry. And if you're interested in collecting Monet Jewelry, this is a fabulous book. This is the Miriam Haskell book. This is on Miriam Haskell jewelry. It was written by Kathy Gordon and Sheila Pamsdalov. This is a great book to own if you want to learn more about Miriam Haskell jewelry. I do not have a lot of pieces of Miriam Haskell jewelry in my collection. I did do a video on Miriam Haskell jewelry. It's one of the first videos I ever did. It's not the best video. I'm still learning now how to make and edit videos. But this is a good book to own if you love Miriam Haskell jewelry and want to know more about it. And I have this book. This book is on Sarah Coventry jewelry. It is by Kay Oshell. If you like Sarah Coventry jewelry and you're interested, this is not really something that I collect. I have enjoyed looking at it and reading it. And then I have this one. This is the Collector's Encyclopedia of Occupied Japan Collectibles. This is by Glenn Florence. And I don't really collect this stuff, but I did run across this book at a thrift store for $1.99, and I thought, why not? And because I love old and vintage and antique items, I thought this would be a great book for me. Now, I have ran across a piece of occupied Japan ceramic while out thrifting. It's not something I collect, but back when my friend Linda had her antique booth, I did buy the piece for a couple of bucks, and I did give it to her to put in her antique booth so that she could sell it and make some money off of it. Here's another little book, and I have used this book. This is Antique American Frames, an Identification and Price Guide. And then I have this book. This is Elegant Glassware of the Depression Era. It's an Identification and Value Guide. This is by Jean and Kathy Florence. And I really like this book. I love glassware and I love vintage pieces. And this book I did show in a previous video. This is called the Jewel Box Book. It is a definitive guide to American art metal jewelry boxes from 1900 to 1925. And this is by Joanne Wertella. This is a beautiful book to own. These beautiful little jewel boxes, these are actually called jewelry caskets. It goes into a lot of detail. It gives you lots of photographs and lots of information. And this is a book that I have also shown in a previous video, Antique Purses, A History, Identification, and Value Guide by Richard Holliner. And I bought this book because I do collect vintage and antique purses. I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and I hope that the information in this video has been informative. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on more videos about collecting vintage and antique items. I really do appreciate you guys watching my videos, and keep in mind it does not cost anything to subscribe, and it will help me grow my channel so I can make more videos like this one.